Tonight we're going to be practicing subtracting across zeros. Alright, let's look at this problem. We have 140,000 take away 67,352. The first thing we want to do is get these numbers stacked on top of each other. This is not a problem we can do in our heads. So we want to go ahead and put our biggest number, which is 140,000, on top. We are subtracting. It's really important to line up those place values. So this 6 right here is the 10,000s place. So I'm going to start making sure those digits are lined up. My commas are together. Now I'm ready. Okay. By looking at this, we all can know that obviously this 2 is too big to take away from 0. If I don't have any, I can't take 2 away. And so we know, we remember that we need to borrow. The problem is, when we have all these zeros, where do we borrow from? Can I borrow from this 0 right here that's in the tens place to help me get some more in this ones place? Well, of course not. There's not enough. If you don't have any, you can't take or borrow from that. So where do I go? I can go right next door, but again, I see another 0 and another 0. So logically, think about where would I go to get enough to help me make this number be able to subtract 2 from it. The only place I can go is to this 4. But we've got to be careful about that. We do not want to jump all the way over to the 4 and then take over there. You have to borrow one at a time. So I'm going to go ahead. He doesn't have enough, so I'm going to go over here. He doesn't have enough, so I'm going to go over here. That 0 doesn't have enough. This 4 does. Remember that 4 is not really a 4. It's a 40,000. And so I'm going to borrow, remember, 10 from it, or 10,000. Those 10,000 can only go next door. You can't just jump all the way over all these numbers and put them there. Another thing is that's going to help you because I'm going to need these zeros to be bigger. Now that that 0 now has 10, now I can borrow from it. This becomes a 9, and this is a 10. Before any number becomes a 9, it's a 10 first. What makes it a 9 is borrowing. I'm going to borrow 10 from it, and I have to give it right next door. Now, finally, after all of that, now I can borrow, and this is now a 10. That's where all those 9s come from. And now I can subtract. 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus 5 is 4. 9 minus 3 is 6. Bring your comma down. 9 minus 7 is 2. 3 minus 6, well, I can't do that. So I can, again, borrow and make that a 13, or just bring that 1 up. 13 minus 6 is 7. Now I have my answer of 72,648. Now that you've watched me, I want you to practice with me on the next one. Okay, make sure you're writing this down. We'll be looking for this in your notes tomorrow. The first thing we need to do is to line up those numbers. Stack them on top of each other so that they're easy to work with. My 86 goes in the thousands period. Then I have 927. I am again subtracting. All right, let's think. I don't have enough. to subtract 7 from 0, so I go next door. He doesn't have enough, so he goes to his neighbor, and we keep moving down the number until we get to a number that is big enough to borrow from. Again, that's a 40,000. If I borrow 10,000, that leaves 30,000. And I can only borrow one place at a time. That becomes a 10. Now, this 0 can borrow from him. So let's do that. That 10 now becomes a 9. And now I have a 10 in the hundreds place. Now I can borrow again, leaving 9 and making this a 10. And finally now I can borrow my ones. That has to be a 9 first. Now this is a 10. And now I can subtract. It does get messy, so the more neatly you write and use your lines and space out your numbers, the more it's going to help you. 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 2 is 7. 9 minus 9 is 0. 9 minus 6 is 3. 3 minus 8, again, I can't do that, so I'm going to borrow again. Now I've got 13 minus 8, which is 5, and 2 minus nothing leaves me 2. I have 253,073. Let's try one more. This time I want you to try it on your own, then you can play the video and check it. Okay, here we go. This time I want you to try it first without me. So go ahead, pause the video. Make sure though that you line up your digits, you subtract only numbers that can be subtracted, and you borrow all the way down the number, making them tens first. Okay, pause the video. All right, let's look and see what you should have done here. Okay, you should have written your number and lined those up, making sure your place values are in the correct place. And now we're subtracting. All right, obviously I can't subtract here, so I have to borrow. And I have to borrow all the way down until I have a number big enough to borrow from. And then remember now, this thousands, I'm always borrowing 10. So I'm in the 10,000s place, so I have to borrow a set of 10,000. That becomes a 9. And now this is a 10. I have 10 hundreds. Because I have 10 hundreds, I have enough for the tens to borrow. So this becomes a 9. And now I have 10 tens, so I can borrow from it. That becomes a 9. And now I have 10 ones, which leaves me ready to subtract. 5. 9 minus 4 is 5. 9 minus 3 is 6. 9 minus 9 is 0. Bring down my comma. And here I need to borrow again. 11 minus 9 leaves me 2. And 2 minus nothing is 2. I have 220,655. All right, now it's your turn. I want you to practice on your own, on your paper that you're going, your note page that you're going to bring to us tomorrow. You have 540,000, take away 76,438. And your second problem is 300,000, take away 26,742. Make sure you stack your numbers. You subtract all the way across zeros, changing them to tens first. And we'll see you tomorrow.